Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. And earlier today, many members of former Olympic gymnastic teams from this country testified how the FBI lied about and essentially protected what? Pedophiles. Okay? Now you can say they didn't do their jobs, but every time we talk about something systemic in this country, let's talk about the systemic criminal abuse of the FBI to protect high-level pedophiles. And before we even go there, shame on anybody who attacked Simone Biles for leaving the Olympics. Say what you want about that. I know I had never been sexually abused as a child. Okay? And I know that revisiting something that was so closely associated with something so horrific, it's none of my business. And I saw so many people pile on this young woman who's gone through so much, it really turned my stomach. Okay? So, let me just talk about this systemic, just hiding of the fact that the FBI have known about some high-level pedophiles in the past and kept their mouth shut before we get to this. And we're going to watch Simone Biles, but we're also going to play another clip of another young victim to start this off, okay? But let's start it off way back in the day when a guy named Lord Mountbatten, member of the royal family. Does that sound familiar, Prince Andrew? Don't worry, we'll get to Epstein. Lord Mountbatten, back in the day, the FBI knew he was a pedophile with a perversion for young boys. We've shown you the documents. Anybody can look that up. Perversion for young boys. This is Prince Charles's uncle, his favorite uncle. All right? Now, the FBI knew about that, but the thing is, they like to have blackmail on people, right? And if you're high enough, they'll just cover it up, especially if you have quote-unquote intelligence connections. Now let's get to Epstein, Maria Farmer. We don't find out until 20-plus years later that the FBI and the NYPD was told about Epstein by Maria Farmer. That's systemic cover-ups. We're going to keep going. Anthony Weiner and his laptop, those FBI documents are real. You did have somebody, again, from the local New York police departments finding some things. I believe it was New York. I don't think it was D.C. for some reason. I believe it was in New York because that's where he was a congressman. I'm not perfect. Hopefully I didn't get that one wrong, but I can tell you this. We never found out about that laptop. And what did that go with? That went into all these QAnon nonsense message boards. They've got the laptop. They're going to tell us about the laptop. Frazzle rip. Right? See how that works too? They're also able to subvert the truth by putting out disinformation campaigns. And if you think that any of that is really different than what you see here, okay, with Biles and others, you're not getting the big picture. That's what they do. Look at the finder's documents, for God's sakes. The ones that have been declassified. Look at the handwritten police reports, all right, and then compare them to the narrative that came out. The Franklin scandal. I could keep going and going and going. Do you think it's plausible that somebody in the FBI didn't know that Dennis Hassert, who would later be labeled a serial child molester by a judge, that they didn't know while he was the Speaker of the House for the Republicans? Huh? You think that's realistic? I mean, you can live in imagination land if you want to. But here at the Burmis Brigade, we live in a place called reality. So guys, before we get to this very important clip, and shout out to an Open Secret for continuing to highlight this very issue because it is a severe issue. These people in power are often protected. Think about Harvey Weinstein, right? There's more and more accounts of 16 and 17-year-old girls, right? More and more of those. He uses Black Cube, who are basically ex-Mossad and IDF agents. Wow. So before we get into any of that, and we get into Biles' testimony, I want to remind everybody, thumbs it up, subscribe, share, tell people about this channel if you're new to the channel. You know, a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, we just came across this because of the conspiracy theory stuff that was going around. We want to see what it was all about. These ain't conspiracy theories. Everything I just told you in this opening monologue has a video or several videos about it. We interviewed Maria Farmer here, okay, on Epstein. Everything I said right there is documented fact. We've done videos on them. Check out the 2,000 plus videos. Or if you want uncensored and raw, let's get to 35,000 followers today. Again, the Jeremy Rice interview right now is an exclusive of an hour and almost 40 minutes, and we're going to put up the macro aggressions exclusive today as well. Also a lot of stuff that is uncensored. The other links down below to support me, and remember to check out those documentary films. They're all free. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. Okay, let's kick it off right here and see what this young lady, Maggie Nichols, has to say.
Despite these findings of serious and criminal misconduct throughout the FBI, USAG, and USOPC, no accountability has occurred. An important question remains, perhaps the most important question: why? Why would the FBI agents lie to OIG investigators? Why would the FBI not properly document evidence that was received? Why would the FBI agent be interested in the USAG presidency? These questions remain unanswered. And the survivors of Larry Nassar have a right to know why their well-being was placed in jeopardy by these individuals who chose not to do their jobs. To date, no one from the FBI, the USOPC, or USAG has faced federal charges other than Larry Nassar. For many hundreds of survivors of Larry Nassar, this hearing is one of our last opportunities to get justice. We ask that you do what is in your power to ensure those that engaged in wrongdoing are held accountable under the law.
Yeah. And unfortunately for these young ladies, I don't know that that's going to happen. In fact, everything in my body tells me that these agents at the top, everything from history that I've seen, were doing their job, unfortunately. Protecting these type of disgusting individuals. Again, the FBI is a criminal organization. That's why nothing will be done. Christopher Wray, okay, who is an abomination to anything called valid law enforcement, okay? Christopher Wray says he doesn't have a good answer for why all this happened. I don't have a good answer for you. You know, again, 20 years on the war on terror, you got Ayman al-Zawahiri putting out videos. No good answer, right? But our intelligence officials, they're top notch. They haven't betrayed this country and our children. All right, let's go to Biles. I cut out a little bit of her intro, but for the most part, she's really just starting off here. And I want people to see this because, again, so many people rode that talking point train of privilege and how dare you. And it really made me sick.
Please bear with me. To be perfectly honest, I can imagine no place that I would be less comfortable right now than sitting here in front of you, sharing these comments. My name is Simone Biles, and I am a gymnast who has trained at the levels of the sport. As an elite gymnast, I have had the honor to represent the United States of America in multiple international competitions, including World Championships and the Olympic Games. Over the course of my gymnastics career, I have won 25 World Championship medals and 7 Olympic medals for Team USA. That record means so much to me, and I am proud of my representation of this nation through gymnastics. I am also a survivor of sexual abuse, and I believe without a doubt that the circumstances that led to my abuse and allowed it to continue are directly the result of the fact that the organizations created by Congress to oversee and protect me as an athlete, USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee failed to do their jobs.
They failed to do their jobs for her. It's too bad people don't realize, as you get to the upper echelons, These are the cartels. Okay, let me repeat that. These are the cartels.
Nelson Mandela once said, there can be no keener revelation of a society's soul than the way in which it treats its children. It is the power of that statement that compels and empowers me to be here in front of you today. I don't want another young gymnast, Olympic athlete, or any individual to experience the horror that I and hundreds of others have endured before, during, and continuing to this day in the wake.
Now, let's talk about this for a second. How are we treating our children right now? Forget about just the outward sexualization this culture has put younger and younger and younger, okay? But we see what's going on when they've sexualized our kids to get them on poles and normalizing cross-dressing for kids, right? Sex changes as children. You know, as an adult, you do your thing. But how are we treating our kids? And then the state wants to step in. Story today, Pfizer's already ready to shoot your kids right up with a lower dose of the old boop boop. How are we treating our children right now? How have many parents treated their kids by, I don't know, putting them on psychotropic medications because maybe they didn't want a parent? Let's look at ourselves as a society right now. And this poor girl, how do we treat her when she decided maybe she had to leave because something emotional like this would happen and she wasn't going to be able to perform? I don't know. We didn't treat her very well.
Of the Larry Nassar abuse. To be clear,
Take your time.
To be clear, I blame Larry Nassar, and I also blame an entire system that enabled and perpetrated his abuse. USA Gymnastics and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee knew that I was abused by their official team doctor long before I was ever made aware of their knowledge. In May of 2015, Rhonda Fayen, the former head of USA Gymnastics women's program, was told by my friend and teammate, Maggie Nichols, that she suspected I, too, was a victim. I didn't understand the magnitude of what all was happening until the Indianapolis Star published its article in the fall of 2016, entitled, Former USA Gymnastics Doctor Accused of Abuse. Yet while I was a member of the 2016 U.S. Olympic team, neither USAG, USOPC, nor the FBI ever contacted me or my parents. While others had been informed and investigations were ongoing, I had been left to wonder why I was not told until after the Rio Games. This
Weird.
is the largest case of sexual abuse in the history of American sport. And although there have been a fully independent investigation of the FBI's handling of the case, neither USAG nor USOPC have ever been made the subject of the same level of scrutiny. These are the entities entrusted with the protection of our sport and our athletes, and yet it feels like questions of responsibility and organizational failures remain unanswered. As you pursue the answers to those questions, I ask that your work be guided by the same question that Rachel Den Hollander and many others have asked. How much is a little girl worth? I sit before you today to raise my voice so that no little girl must endure what I, the athletes at this table, and the countless others who needlessly suffered under Nassar's guise of medical treatment, which we continue to endure today. We suffered and continue to suffer because no one at FBI, USAG, or the USOPC did what was necessary to protect us. We have been failed, and we deserve answers. Nassar is where he belongs, but those who enabled him deserve to be held accountable.
No, they deserve to be in prison. In prison. Not accountable. In prison. All right? These people that are essentially the cover-up crew for these individuals need to be in prison. Period. This has gone on for too long. And it's not just the high-level sexual abuse of children, right? When we talk about 9/11, we can talk about vulgar betrayal, okay? And we could talk about the unit that knew how the money was moving and essentially was not only shut down but then silenced by people like Chertoff and Mueller, okay? That's the truth.
If they are not, I am convinced that this will continue to happen to others across Olympic sports. In reviewing the OIG's report, it truly feels like the FBI turned a blind eye to us and went out of its way to help protect USAG and USOPC. A message needs to be sent. If you allow a predator to harm children, the consequences will be swift and severe. Enough is enough. I will close with one final thought. The scars of this horrific abuse continue to live with all of us. As the lone competitor in the recent Tokyo Games who is a survivor of this horror, I can assure you that the impacts of this man's abuse are not ever over or forgotten. The announcement in the spring of 2020 that the Tokyo Games were to be postponed for a year meant that I would be going to the gym, to training, to therapy, living daily among the reminders of this story for another 365 days. As I have stated in the past, one thing that helped me push each and every day was the goal of not allowing this crisis to be ignored. I worked incredibly hard to make sure that my presence could maintain a connection between the failures and the competition at Tokyo 2020. That has proven to be an exceptionally difficult burden for me to carry, particularly when required to travel to Tokyo without the support of any of my family. I am a strong individual and I will persevere, but I never should have been left alone to suffer the abuse of Larry Nassar. And the only reason I did was because of the failures that lie at the heart of the abuse that you are now asked to investigate. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts with this committee today. I want to sincerely thank each of you for joining the survivors of this abuse to do what we all can to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. Thank you.
So there it is. Look, pretty obvious to me what's going on here. You got a high-level criminal class that has trafficked children. Let me say that again. They've trafficked children in certain instances, especially when you look at the CIA and the FBI and the cross-pollination right there, right? We've done the videos on CIA whistleblowers saying, yeah, we've gotten kids for our assets. Yeah. And you saw even when Sacha Baron Cohen tried to do his ha-ha funny joke about a year and a half, might even be 2-3 years ago now. Had tried to do his ha-ha funny joke, right? I think for Who is America in a casino asking for young boys, and the concierge said, hey, we can hook it right up. And then the FBI steps in, nothing to see here. Nope, couldn't do that. Nothing to see here. So thumbs it up, subscribe, share. Not about left or right, always about right and wrong. All right, and these women deserve justice. Will they get it? No, because this is a criminal cartel. Okay, and people need to wake up to that. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip side.